My name's Jiho. I'm just finishing off my PhD now. My project started off as let's try and find a solution for providing a high-power dynamic beam shaping. Now, the basic concept at the beginning of the project started off as let's shape the beam the way you normally do it with something called a spatial light modulator, and then take that into an optical amplifier arrangement of some description to bring that up to much higher power levels. This optical amplifier arrangement has since developed into an array of small fiber amplifiers. So the idea is now, let's take a beam, launch them into little bits of fibers, amplify them all individually to a much higher level, and then add them all together at the end. And by adjusting the phase values for each of them, you can change the shape of it. It turns out this arrangement is actually already used in something called coherent beam combining. But in this case, you're synchronizing all the phases from all the different sources so that it adds them to a single point. During the space of my project, I've shown that instead of synchronizing the phase, by adjusting it to well-defined values, you can change the shape of the spots that you get at the end of this. I think pinning down what you got out of your course is always quite difficult because you haven't really got a reference to compare it against. But for me particularly, I really enjoyed pushing my own project. If I pinned it down, I think the main benefit of the CDT program, and I guess this is the most different thing about it as well. It's the first year master's year, where on one hand, I feel like if my PhD project was defined back then, I might have been able to do it without the one-year course. But my definition of the PhD project actually came from that first year. Even if I didn't actually spend any time defining it back then, I feel like it sort of soaked me into the research environment such that you would sort of get these questions as you go along. I really enjoyed working in a really open research environment with quite a broad range of different subjects that we're studying. So sometimes a conversation will come up in a subject area that you have no idea about. And some people say this is quite good for bouncing ideas for different subjects because otherwise you get quite tunneled into your own trail of thoughts. But apart from that, I just found it really fun. After this PhD, I've really wanted to go abroad from the UK, and in the short term, luckily, I've landed an internship in Zurich with ABB for 6 months. But on a longer term, there are two things that I'm thinking about at the moment. On one hand, I might try and use a sort of subject-specific things that I've learned so far in photonics and high-power lasers to go and work with a photonic systems developer of some description. But on the other hand, I was actually thinking maybe I could go into sort of artificial intelligence or computer sciences, neurosciences if possible as well. Once upon a time, I might have thought this was quite a big jump, but now, if anything, I think the PhD really taught me if you are interested in these things, you really could do it, even if it's not necessarily your direct subject. I knew nothing about light 3 years ago, so.